do you think the biggest effect on your personality done by China?
I came in what we call the end of the golden years. So everything was growing, everything was possible. China was very, very open. I was just reflecting, we even had Facebook then, and that was totally okay for everybody. It wasn't blocked, so it was just a different time. But I also think going into a society and a country and an economy that is growing a lot compared to a very mature and already solidified culture like Germany, where everything goes a certain way and where if you want to do something, you have to kind of slowly improve your way upwards, or you have to wait for your manager to leave his or her job to take their job, compared to China, where it was just explosive growth at that time. That definitely opened a lot of doors and a lot of possibilities, and it gives you this feeling that if you are willing to work really hard with a little bit of luck, everything is possible.
Interesting. I didn't know that how you called it, the Great Chinese Firewall.
Yeah,
you call it
later.
What year did it arrive?
I remember, for example, 2008, 2009. I remember using Facebook, for example, for the first time, 2008. Everybody was using it, including the Chinese, so you would connect. The internet was much more accessible than we now have a very heavily managed internet experience. So we call it harmonized internet experience, where if you're in China, it's not easy, and sometimes, it's not easy to access international news pages. And then also, I would say at the same time, the Chinese internet ecosystem has much improved. So if you're in China and if you're Chinese, you're not missing out on anything, because they have the Chinese version of everything. So there's the Chinese version of Facebook, of Instagram, of Google Maps, of Spotify, of Netflix. Everything has a local version, and so you're not feeling you're missing anything. You're only missing it when you're between both worlds and you want to talk to your friends at home, or you want to stay in touch, or use Netflix, for example.
I talked to a guy. He's been in China for a long time. It's like 17 years, almost like yourself. And he actually told me that like 99% of the population, they actually don't need like a global internet because they have everything local. And for like 1% that use VPN, or like for foreigners, China kind of close blind eye on the kind of, okay, use it. It's like it's on you. We don't care much, as long as it's like 99% of people consume like local content.
I think that's a very important point that you touched, because foreigners, when we come to China and we are so frustrated, we can't access our Gmail account, we can't access WhatsApp to talk to our parents and all of that, right? Or news pages. And we often feel it's directed against us, but it's really not. It is designed to manage the internet experience of the Chinese population, and we just get affected because we are in that moment geographically in China. But from a Chinese point of view, no, you really don't need it.
Let's say if you want to talk to your family on WhatsApp, so it's for you on your side it's difficult, but you can make your family download WeChat, and I guess they can because I have WeChat before my first trip to China. I downloaded WeChat, I did all the settings. It took like maybe a couple of days. But WeChat, like to pay, for example, it take a couple of days. But WeChat as a messenger, probably you can download it living in Germany and just start using it, right? Or not?
It's very easy. You just go to any app store, Google or Android, you download WeChat, you can register with your normal telephone number. It doesn't cost anything and so on. So all my close friends have WeChat, and then they have one contact, and that's me. And so then we communicate on WeChat while I'm gone. And of course, there are ways. You can absolutely, with different internet tools, you can make everything work. It is just less reliable and a lot more headache. So for them to download WeChat is actually easier. But not everybody will do it. Of course, there are some concerns people have. The overall reputation of Chinese software is sometimes not the best when it comes to personal privacy matters. So some people are not willing to do, and that's fine. But close friends, they all have WeChat. What is very interesting at the moment is that, and maybe we will see a change on how the internet is managed in the future. So in the past, the internet was managed how it is being managed to control the internet experience of the Chinese population, and that was fine. But what is happening now is that Chinese companies are going global. So it's called Shuhai, right? So we call it Shuhaiing, going abroad. And Chinese companies are having the expectation to become global leaders in certain industries. So from AI and other related industries, right? And so then what we are now seeing for the first time is that some Chinese companies are choosing to move the headquarters out of China. One of the reasons is the internet experience that they're having, because they say in order to be competitive globally, we need to have the same access to the information the rest of the world has access to. And so I think that's a very interesting development, how that will affect the overall internet experience for, I would say, normal people, I don't know. But that's definitely something new that I only heard about since this year.
What was the biggest cultural shocks for you? I don't know if you remember, it was like 17 years ago, but is it anything that you remember you are not used to, how it works in China? Maybe it's still something that you're still not used to.
I'm sure that was true, but I have it more the other way. So when I go back to Germany, for example, or to Europe, Hanover, that's where I'm from, is not a small city, but also not a big city. So sometimes I would step out of my family home and I look left and right on the street and there's nobody. And are we back in COVID? Where are the people, Or you go just somewhere randomly and you see somebody who, for example, at an event, if I go to an event in Germany and you see somebody who looks like the CEO of a large company, and I just go and introduce myself and I expect them to treat me professionally and with respect and with some interest, and then they just look at me and they're like, oh, you look like a little girl, and they just kind of go somewhere else. I'm like, what is going on? Not in a disrespectful way. They just don't necessarily associate what they would associate with me in China. So that is a little bit of a difference. Also in China, I feel we network much more openly. So even if you are very famous or if you are the CEO of a really large company, usually people are open, talking to everybody, at least spending a little bit of time to see, okay, if there's an area for cooperation. And I feel that is a lot less. And I feel that relationships are more set in stone when I go to Germany. So it's really it's interesting. It's an interesting experience.
Are you still optimistic about China and being in China as a foreigner and like about China overall?
Yes. So I would say the current time period is certainly the most challenging economic time period I have witnessed in China. I also don't know how long it will continue. I think there are many factors in place, and people who are a lot smarter than me can strategize about those. But what I do know is that the Chinese government has made plans and has implemented many plans. So you have things which are the China standard, for example, 2035, which aims to set global standards according to Chinese criteria. You have the AI industry, where the government is putting significant consolidated effort and money into the industry. So they have started another 500 university courses for AI educational classes. They are creating this little artificial hubs where all the companies are coming together to create synergies in the ecosystem. They are really pushing forward the research and development in those areas. I think also that what we have seen in the automotive industry, for example. So historically, you have the international brands, the Volkswagens and so on of this world come to China. And then now we have Chinese e-vehicles taking the lead and also exporting abroad. And so from the first moment to where we are here, there was a strategy in place. So the companies came, they had to enter joint ventures, there was technology transfer, and then innovation happened in China with Chinese characteristics, so to say. And the same is happening across so many boards. So we are almost in the same stage at the train or rolling stock industry. If you look at the aerospace industry, we are not there yet, but give it another 5 years or 10 years or so. And so something very similar is playing out in many different industries. So I really think that China is having so many industrial policies in place. I also think that they're building up a plan B towards what's going on in America. So, for example, they're building an alternative to SWIFT, which is called SIPS. So just in case, if for whatever reason they may not be able to use SWIFT, then there is already an alternative in place. So it's a very long term. So yes, at the moment, it's a challenging time. But if you just look at what's already published and in action for the next couple of years, then I am very sure that China is going to increase its influence and increase its economy, at least intermediate future and for some longer time to come.
By the way, how people react when they hear you speaking Chinese?
If they talk about something I can talk about well, they're happy. Sometimes you have this interesting moment where you get in the back of a taxi and the driver's like, okay, where you want to go? And you speak to them, and then at the moment they're looking at the mirror. And then they come closer to the mirror and like, are you Chinese? I'm like, no. But no, it's quite clear from my accent that I'm not. I used to have black hair, which I don't have anymore, and I'm not very tall. So Chinese would look at me, they're like, are you Chinese? I'm like, no. They're like, are you sure? I'm like, yes.